All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time this video catches you. Lisa Hayes, and I am here in the Women's Bible Institute, and we are still in the book of Daniel, Daniel chapter 11. And boy, oh boy, is it a long chapter, but it is a chapter that is about war. Recognize the signs of war that's happening, and you'll understand what's happening in your midst. All right, back at you now. Shout out to homeschool educators and those who are taking their kids out of the system. That is one way I know for sure that we are going to be able to reverse the curse of what we're dealing with today and really save the next generation if we begin to take the children out of the system of this world right now and really give them uh, um, the education that they need. And no, parents are always the first educators. And if you decide to put them somewhere else, uh, make sure it's not into the system, because the system is now training kids to actually, and have been for a long time, to do its dirty work. Seriously. So we're just, all it takes is just one generation to be changed or trained to think a certain way. Okay, because we do this all the time, trained to think a certain way, and then that takes that generation in a different direction. It's like, well, how did we get this far off? Well, we sent our kids to Rome to get um, their education, and so all that comes back on us. And so shout out to everybody who's taken the step to go and do a different uh, 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 set of learning and education. And I know, personally as a homeschool educator, um, the kids end up wiser. They do. Now I wish I would have did something different for college, but well, it is what it is. So when I get a chance to work with my next set of kids, um, it won't be the same. Okay, it will not. All right, so now we are on to Daniel chapter 11. Okay, let me get to that. Daniel chapter 11, and I have to take a look at, because this Daniel chapter 10 was the return of the king. And the reason why the king was returning, because he had a word that he put out there. Okay, he told them that they would have 70 years, be 70 years in Babylon. Okay, and so as the dream of Nebuchadnezzar unfolds throughout the rest of the chapter, because Daniel gets his own dream about a vision about what Nebuchadnezzar saw. And so it unfolds. And actually, in this particular chapter, in this particular book, okay, we learn about four kingdoms. But the four kingdoms that's mentioned in this chapter are Babylon, um, the Medes, Persia, and Greece. That's it. Those are the four kingdoms. And look, you can read over this 10 times, and you can give it a double meaning if you want to. But these are the four kingdoms that are mentioned in this book, and it bears out over the whole entire book. It, like Revelation, unfolds, so we don't get the whole revelation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. We get his perspective as a king, but then we get the dirty details as Daniel go on into his prophetic ministry. Okay, and the Lord, and he continues to humble himself in prayer, and so the Lord unfolds more to him. And so this is over the lifespan of his life, and that's absolutely right. Okay, so now we are in a position where the king has returned, in that 70 years that they have been the people of God have been sent into exile, because the Lord sent them there. Now hell doesn't want to let them go. Okay, and this is exactly how hell is. If it was not for the Lord, okay, who's on our side, we would not be released from certain situations. Okay, the Lord battling on our behalf, we would not be released from certain situations, because hell does not want to let us go. And they will keep creating laws to trip you up and to have you stuck and to have you pinned down and oppressed and pushed back under the weight of trying to gain this worldly wealth, okay, off of individuals, okay, and the Lord has to step in according to His word, because there's only one thing that is going to stop the kingdom of darkness other than the Lord, and that is His family, as it relates to bringing Him into the situation and actually following His way and His will. So now we are in a great war. We are now in a great war, and the Lord is telling Daniel, okay. And you know, some people can fight me on, okay, well, where's the wrong part, and this is double meaning and things like that, and you didn't go where I went to and things like that. And those are the same people that told you that there's not going to be a battle or a tribulation for the people of God. And this is the chapter that tells us, yes, there is. Yeah, no, seriously, because we're actually sitting in war right now. We are. And the people of God have to stand their ground with their Savior, the one who's coming to get them, and the one who's opening up their eyes to His operation in their midst, and also the operation of His enemy in our midst. Now, here is the last thing that He said to Daniel in chapter 10 before I get to 11. Okay, He says this is what he asked Daniel. This is what the Lord asked Daniel, because now he's in war mode. Okay, he's in war mode because He does bring vengeance against His adversaries. So He says in Daniel chapter 10, this is the last thing He says in that chapter. He says, "Do you know why I have come?" He says, "Soon I will return to fight against the prince of Persia." This is the one who's holding the people of God captive. Remember, they were about to be killed by Haman when Queen Esther had to go before the king after a year to free her people from being annihilated from the earth. And then people were still being held in bondage or captivity, at that point. So the Lord has to come and release His people a little bit at a time. And so He's coming to fight against the prince of Persia, because the kingdoms of this world do not want to release the people of God. So He has to go and fight on behalf and negotiate on behalf of His people. He says, "This is why I came. Soon I will return to fight against the prince of Persia. And when I go, the prince of Greece will come." Okay, so he's going to tell because the kingdoms of this world, how they gain authority over you is by the edge of the sword first. But the Lord tells us, "With love and kindness have I drawn thee." That's what He started off with. But the world starts off with the sword, with war, to take authority over its target people. So He says, "I'm coming to fight against the prince of Persia, and then when I go, the prince of Greece will come." And this is what's so important about Scripture. This is well, how do you know the Bible is real? The prophecies. Seriously, that's how you know that is real. So then the prince of Persia will come, because we're fighting against principalities, right? But it all starts at the top. But first, I will tell you what is written in the book of truth. No one supports me against them except your prince, Michael. So the people of God also have a principality, okay, that fights on their behalf as well. So He's telling we're not alone in this battle. So He does not have a physical army on earth as well. So he's bringing his army to fight against the prince of Persia. But this is what He says. And in the first year, I'm in chapter 11, and in the first year of Darius the Mede, I took my stand to support and protect him. Okay? To support and protect him. Now remember, this is another kingdom. Medes is the Medes is a kingdom, but so are the Persians are also a kingdom, but they kind of fought together, side by side, and kind of like co-labored as two kingdoms working together to rule the world. But then eventually the Lord had to come and fight against Persia because they were the ones who kept the kingdom going, a little further than they, holding on to the people of God further than they should have. So, because it's always going to be about the interest of the wealth. Okay. It's always going to be about the wealth of the rich and protecting it. Listen to what the Lord says. Okay. Now then, and he has nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with gaining wealth as much as it is, you're holding the people of God captive, and they are building, they're building your country, they're building your machines, they're building your wealth, and you don't want to release them when now it is their appointed time to go. Now then, I tell you the truth, 3 more kings will arise in Persia. So there's that third kingdom that he's referring to, and then a fourth who will be far richer than all the others. It always comes down to riches. Really, seriously, it always comes down to that. When he has gained power by his wealth, because that's what it takes. That's why they try to gain a bunch of riches to so that they can have the biggest toys, the biggest guns, the biggest weaponry to enforce their agenda, law, or whatever. But there's only one group of people where the Lord is fighting on their behalf, and he's coming for his family in particular, because he watches over his word to perform it. So he has to fight against the principalities of Persia. And he's telling you it's all starting at the top with those who are at the top of the chain, the top of controlling that particular kingdom. When he's gained power by his wealth, he will stir up everyone against the kingdom of Greece. And that right there is the fourth kingdom in this book. Then a mighty king will arise, who will rule with great power and do as he pleases. Okay. After he has risen, his empire will be broken up and parceled out towards the 4 winds of heaven. Of course, when we know that Alexander the Great, he died, at a young age. I believe he was 32 years old. In his kingdom, he was that leopard that was moving really, really fast and came against the ram. Okay, they came against the ram and destroyed the ram. Okay, and so his kingdom was split up into four different kingdoms. So it's the four winds of the earth. Okay, the king of the south will become strong, but one of his commanders will become even stronger than he and will rule his own kingdom with great power. After some years, they will become allies. The daughter of the king of the south will go to the king of the north to make an alliance, but she will not retain her power. So it's like systems come together to form a union. Okay, to actually attack another system to retain power. So you get married, you have another agreement with it, right? But her power does not last. Okay. In those days, she will be betrayed together with her royal escort and her father and the one who supported her. One of her family, and you can get all the background of this particular a book. You read the Maccabees 1, 2, and 3, and it starts right off just giving you the details, verbatim as to what's happening, as to how all this kind of went down. Okay, so Daniel's giving us an overview, and the book of Maccabees gives us a detailed look at the kings, their names, Nicanor, their generals, and who goes and get the tax and everything. Once you take a look at that, okay? One from her family line will arise to take her place. He will attack the forces of the king of the north, because now it's like bad blood between the king of the north and the king of the south, because they attacked the queen, the daughter that they had given her, but she lost her power, she didn't retain her power. And so somebody from her bloodline, okay, was born and had that same DNA or that same makeup to fight and take thrones and things like that and take territories. So somebody from her bloodline rose up, okay, to fight against, the king of the north, and enter his fortress. He will fight against them and be victorious. He will also, so now it was vengeance. He will also seize their gods, their metal images. So that's really a big takedown, because taking somebody gods is actually is a sign of victory. Okay, and so he will also seize their gods, their metal images, and their valuable articles of silver and gold, and carry them off to Egypt. For some years, he will leave the king of the north alone. Then the king of the north will invade the realm of the king of the south, because you have the four, but you really don't have the east and west coming in as much as you have the north and the south battling, because the people of God is actually in, in the south. And so this is the battle point, the fighting point, because there's only one group of people who's going to really cry out to the creator God, okay, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, that can really bring judgment up on the kings of the earth. Okay, there's only one group of people, and so this is what the battle is, what it all comes down to. So he's trying to explain to Daniel that this is what's about to happen. Then the king of the north will invade the realm of the king of the south, but will retreat to his own country. His sons will prepare for war and assemble a great army. So there's always war, 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 war. Who's got the most money? Because they have to gain authority over each other with power, such as war, and taking each other's goods and services and all the resources, so that they can muster up an army, be violent against each other, to take authority over each other's territory, so that they can be God, so that they can be worshipped. This is what we gain from the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. His sons will prepare for war and assemble a great army, which will sweep on like an irresistible flood and carry the battle as far as his fortress. Then the king of the south will march out in a rage and fight against the king of the north, who will raise a large army. Here we go. But it will be defeated. Here we go. When the army is carried off, the king of the south will be filled with pride and will slaughter many thousands, yet he will not remain triumphant. For the king of the north will muster up another army larger than the first one. Do you know how much it takes? Because this is how they gained authority. So they've been trained in warfare. All they know is warfare. They know how to muster up an army to fight against their enemies. This is all they know. They know how that, the only way that they're going to be able to have rulership is to kill, steal, and destroy. This is the exact operation of the kingdom of darkness. And so you see how it goes. You have an inside look of how it goes. And like I said, if you get the book of Maccabees, Maccabees 1, 2, and 3, you will see this in live technicolor, and how they kind of win at each other. All right. And of course, you have the book of Ezra and Nehemiah about how they rebuilt the temple. And so while the rebuilding of the temple is, was going on, war was taking place as well. In those times, many will rise against the king of the south. Those who are violent among your own people will rebel in fulfillment of the vision, but without success. Then the king of the north will come and build up siege ramps and will capture a fortified city. This is inside of Jerusalem. Okay, that's where he's telling him going to build up siege ramps and capture a fortified city. Here is the thing: the people of God are there. They are actually now beginning to send up sacrifices and bring in the Lord's presence into this particular place. But then it's getting a little tricky, because now the nation, some in the nation are heading back or backsliding into their old ways. Then an invader will do as he pleases. No one will be able to stand against him. He will establish himself in the beautiful land, talking about where the people of God are, and will have the power to destroy it. He will determine to come with his might of his entire kingdom, and will make alliances with the king of the south. And he will give him a daughter in marriage. Here we go again, in order to overthrow the kingdom. But his plans will not succeed or help him. Then he will turn his attention to the coastland and will take many of them. But a commander will put an end to his insolence and will turn his insolence back on him, because he was, first of all, he was out of his timing. It was not his time to take that step. It was not his time to actually come against the people of God at that particular time. It was not. So he was put to the test and stopped. Okay, because that's what happens sometimes. When the world is kind of like emboldened, they'll take extra steps. Okay, and it's kind of gross, but they'll take extra steps to overreach their authority, and so someone else steps in, right, and cut them off, and that's divine providence. After this, he will turn back towards the fortunes of his own country and will stumble and fall to be seen no more. So this is like the fourth king between the two sides, the south, the north, and the south. Okay, his successor will send out a tax collector to maintain the royal splendor, which was Nicanor. You have to read like I said, the book of Maccabees to kind of to learn the part about Greece, not the part about the family of God, because you read about the family of God in Nehemiah and Ezra. Okay, but you read about the history of the Maccabean revolt. You read about that because they were fighting against Greece, and it gives the details on that in the book of Maccabees. Okay, it says his successor will send out a tax collector to maintain the royal splendor. In a few years, however, he will be destroyed. So here's another king, yet not in anger or in battle. So that means he died of um, uh, worms that was eating his body. That particular one. He will be succeeded by a contemptible person who has not been given the honor of royalty. Now this dude was in prison in Rome. Okay. He comes out. He had a long time to think of a wicked scheme. He had a very long time to think of a wicked scheme to come up with, okay, in order to uh, um, uh, 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 to take over a kingdom, a whole kingdom with very few people. Okay, he will invade the kingdom when its people feel secure. So they stop watching, they stop looking, they stop praying, they stop, really being at the gate and seeing who was coming in or what was coming in and out of the city or out of the country. And he will seize it through intrigue because he's real smart. Okay, sort of like Daniel. He's really smart. He can figure out things very difficult. Being in jail, you really get a chance to study and research, and kind of you can really uh, brush up on your tools, sort of like what Joseph did. Brush up on your skills. And so when he was in prison, he was able to brush up on his skills. He was quite intriguing. He was very, very wise in the ways of the world, and he knew human behavior very well, and he was very cunning and very crafty. But he had dark wisdom. Daniel had the wisdom of God, but they had to say, the same time kind of description was given to them both, but one was of this world, and one was of the family of God. Okay, he sees his until he gets an army. He sees them through intrigue. Then an overwhelming army will be swept away before him, because he taught them. He worked both sides. He worked both sides of the country and turned people against each other. Okay, turned people against each other without even lifting a finger, because he became an evil genius, and they wiped themselves out. That's basically what happened. So it was wiped away. So when you see things being ignited, so it's like a great civil war. And so what happened was that basically just handed him the power, okay, to take over as deliverer of that country or that nation. He came forward with the answers when he was the one that actually started the war, from both the civil war in the nation in the first place. So the army, so the citizens turned on each other, and so they were swept away before him, because he was the one that came in with answers, because he is an evil genius. Okay, he isn't he was an evil genius. He brushed up on his skills. Okay. Then an overwhelming army, read this one more time, will be swept away before him. Both it and a prince of the covenant will be destroyed. Okay, we're talking about God's covenant people. They turned on each other. Because he was a subtle, crafty, sort of like statesman, but he was the one that ignited the war. He didn't even have an army. He ignited the war, the civil war between the two. Okay, not in the sense of saying, you have to see the truth. Okay, you have to see the truth to accept the truth, and then you could probably work together. No, he came with the intentions of dividing and conquering, to take over that whole nation. And so he was successful in doing that. That was his thing. So he was the one that deceitfully started a civil war. Okay, after coming to an agreement with him, he will act deceitfully, and with only a few people he will rise to power. Only a few people. Just he did it all by entry. He became a skilled evil genius. He really did. So he knew how to he knew who his enemies was. He knew who his foe, who were with him. Okay, but he knew how to go in a nation, start a civil war, because he was working both sides of both, like sort of like a devil with a forked tongue, but that was to take over the people of God, because they were actually believing each other were enemies when he was the enemy all along. So they used their weapons to fight each other. When the richest promises feel secure, he will invade them and will achieve what neither his father nor his forefathers did. He will distribute plunder, loot, and wealth among his followers. So those, sometimes when you feel like, wow, you're betraying your own people, when you start seeing them, speaking his language, it's because he's paying them to speak on their behalf, because they're not working on behalf of the Lord. They're not working on behalf of their people. He's paying them to sell out the rest of the country. And so what you see is his puppets, his political puppets, speaking on his behalf. Okay, speaking on his behalf. Okay, he will plot the overthrow of the fortress, but only for a time. Okay, so this one was able to come and take advantage of the people of God, and the people of God did not know how to work together or even recognize an enemy, because they stopped watching and praying according to the will of the Lord. But he told them they had so much time to get this in. With a large army, he will stir up his strength and courage. So now he has an army. Okay, with a large army, because once you have civil war, here comes the famine and everything else. The lack, not having enough, and all the spoils of that war actually went to him. So now he has a large army. He's taking advantage of the nation, and so now he has an army in his hands. Okay, because he became an evil genius. With a large army, he will stir up his strength, and this is the difference between him and Daniel. Daniel led the kings to the Lord and to the will of the Lord. He led them into chaos and to taking authority over them and all their goods and loot and all their money and things like that. So he plundered them. With a large army, he will stir up his strength and courage against the king of the south. The king of the south will wage war with a large army, with a large and very powerful army. Here we go, back more still kill and destroy the kingdom of darkness. But he will not be able to stand because of the plots devised against him. So he got enemies. Those who eat from the king's provisions will try to destroy him. His army will be swept away, and many will fall in battle. The two kings, with their hearts bent on evil, will sit at the same table and lie to each other, but to no avail. Because they actually want to be, someone wants to be the king of the world. Okay, and so you have to take out a king. okay, in order to do that. A king have to take out a king in order to do that, but it does not work, okay? Because remember, the Lord is watching over this, and it's still about his covenant people. He's watching over them, okay, and watching over the whole situation, right? It says because the end. It says the two kings were sitting there, okay, but to no avail, because the end will still come at its appointed time. Because remember, they're on a countdown. They had the 49 years to build the temple, to get that in place, and then you have the 62 sevens, okay, to bring in everlasting righteousness. Okay, remember that, right? And so this is kind of like during that time. It says the two kings, okay, we read that already. The king of the north will return to his own country with great wealth, but his heart will be set against the holy covenant. Why? He can't gain authority over certain people in this group. Now he may have gotten some, but he can't get this is the one thing that's stopping him from really coming in and pretending he is God. And that's what's gonna triple. It's gonna happen again. It happened once, it happened again. It happened Jesus' day, right? He says, okay, so now so it's not even about his wealth or his money or how much he can buy somebody and give them a sophisticated title anymore. He knows that the people of God it caught on to him. They were asleep at the time, but now they understand, like, oh no, no. Not that you're not going to have me tripped up like that. Okay, because he always wants to prove it, Satan always wants to prove God to be a lie. Okay, that's the thing. Always, and want people to come and follow after him and worship him as God. Okay, and so now he's got a problem with these people because the people not buying. He's a skilled deceiver, and that's what happens in times like the skilled deception is out with its fangs in full force. Okay, and we're gonna see a whole bunch of that, right? But those who know their God, okay, they are the ones that's gonna stand against it and do exploits. Okay, it says but he's aggravated about these people who's kind of peculiar, and he can't gain dominance over them. That's one thing his skill cannot do. He will take action against it and then turn to his own country. At the appointed time, he will invade. He's thinking about how to do the South again, but this time the outcome will be different from the one it was before. Ships, because remember he had a chance to kind of bring intrigue and take authority over them, but there's certain people in that group that he could not overthrow like that. But he tried to go out and do it again, but look what happened. Ships, it wasn't as it was before. Ships of the western coastland will oppose him, and he will lose heart. Then he will turn back and invent fury against the holy people. He got to still have it done. He's still bent on destroying the people of God. He will return and show favor. Okay, he was angry, okay, because somebody stopped him in his track. So now he has to come up with another plan. Okay, so now he's enraged against the people of God because this is the one thing. This is the one group of people. This is the one group of people that can stop hell. You know how they say the gates of hell will not prevail. A lot of times the political system, is set up as a gate, of hell to usher in darkness. Okay, but the gates of hell will not prevail against what? The church of the Lord Jesus Christ. All right. Even in it's been Old Testament, it's just a shadow of what was to come. He will return and show favor to those who forsake the holy covenant. That was his game plan. Let me find somebody that's not strong in their faith. Let me find somebody who really is not sure and think it's just all about the good things that you get, the money or all the material possessions. Let me find some people. So you have to go study the crowd and see who really ain't paying attention. Okay, so his battle strategy was, okay, I'm gonna find somebody who can forsake the covenant that I could pay to do this. Okay, he says his armed forces will rise up to desecrate the temple fortress and will abolish the daily sacrifice. That's what he was trying to do. Stop the people of God from going into the house of God, praying and seeking him and bringing him into the situation. That's a classic trick, stop the people of God from calling on God, okay, as they should. This is just close the mouth of God. So he stopped the daily sacrifice. That's what he wanted to do, because it's like, what is this? He finally figured out. Wait a minute, hold on. They going and praying again. Here they go praying again, calling on some God I don't even know. Okay, again, and they praying again. And so now, since they are praying again, I can't get it. I can't get my work through. I can't get my schemes off no more. My goodness. Lord Jesus. So he abolished, he made it against the law. What they do that at? He made it so he got rid of the day, and he found some people who said they were believers, okay, who he bought off and said, this is God's will for the son. He is God. And what's going to always give, when you see that again, what's going to always give it away is his sexual appetite. Man, beast, woman, child, it don't even matter. That's what's going to always give. It's like, no, this ain't God. He going to always give away. First thing is going to happen is to shut the people of God up. Stop the prayers. Stop talking about Jesus. Stop talking about how good he is and who he is and things like that in the word of the Lord, okay? Because he'll twist the stuff. He'll twist scriptures or twist the word or put another word in there to make it about what the devil's doing, okay? And what's going to be a dead giveaway is going to always be the sexual appetite, which the Lord is not going to transgress his own law. He told his people what his law was to let us know how he think, how he view the world, and how he set things in order. Okay, no, we're not saved by the law, but he's telling them the one thing that's going to trip this devil up, okay, always is his sexual appetite, and even drinking blood, but I'm not getting into that. I digress from that one, okay? Okay, so now he took away the daily sacrifices. Then they will set up the abomination that causes desolation. With flattery, he will corrupt those who have violated the covenant. He gonna get them all kind of awards. He gonna make sure it look prestigious. He's gonna make sure it looks like, oh my goodness, and it's gonna be a beautiful picture. Okay, it's always something beautiful and prestigious and seems so right and so righteous, and gonna put all this money. Oh, they got millions of dollars, and now they have this big old house and this mansion, and they sold their soul to the devil, and they know it. Okay, they sold their soul to the devil, and they had already been in the battle. Okay, the people of God had already been in that civil war. They realized that we're not enemies. He came in and took it by intrigue. Okay, he came in and took it by intrigue. Okay, and then we believe we ended up with less than what it was before he came here. We ended up with less after he got done with us. So no, I'm not going out like that no more. But it was a few he was able to get and flatter them, okay, and kind of show them off, okay? It says, with flattery, he will corrupt those who have violated the covenant. But the people who know their God will firmly resist him. And that's absolutely right. I'm not putting this, this ain't no double fold meaning. It really is not, because let me tell you something. This is what Jesus said. Jesus said, I'm not putting this in Rome, okay? The Lord gave us 4 kingdoms in this in chapter in the book of Daniel. He gave us 4 kingdoms. In the 4 kingdoms, Babylon, the Medes, the Persians, and Greece. Okay, and so whatever happens in the New Testament, it's going to be just like Jesus, just like it was in Daniel's day. The same devil is going to come and set itself up in the temple again. Okay, and even in our day, another devil gonna come up and set themselves up as God. But what's gonna mess him up is gonna always be his sexual appetite, because he can't help it. That's gonna be the one thing that give it away. Say, nope. Those who know they God know he ain't having sex. He ain't writing laws for somebody to do whatever they want to do, because he already told us how he thinks about all this in his word and how he views it. So this is not God, but he's going to always come. There's going to be one coming, okay, that is going to set himself up as God, okay? But those who know their God will firmly resist him, okay? Those who are wise will instruct many, though for a time they will fall by the sword or be burned or captured or plundered. And look, when somebody tells, look, you need to go to this seminary school and this, that, and the other, and that, and the third. That's why you don't know they're talking about Rome in the book of Daniel as well, and all that other nonsense. Those are the same people that told you that you won't be going through tribulation. Those are the same people that does not put two and two together and get us prepared for the pressure and the persecution that's coming right now, because they're taking out Christians right now. But since we went into their institutions, we don't recognize what that looks like. We don't recognize what that looked like. Okay. But those who know their guys, we stumble, but I'm telling you, we get back up and we fight the good fight of faith, because we didn't understand the war at the time. But then we begin to see and reflect, stand on the word of God, pray about it, meditate, and the Lord bring us on into what he has been trying to communicate with us all along. Okay. And so when someone tells us that we're not going to go through tribulation, you go right back to this word. It's narcissistic of us to think that we're not. Okay. Because what are we sitting in now? And this stuff, it hurts. I cry about it all the time, and so, just talking and crying out to the Lord. Those who are wise will instruct many, though for a time they will fall by the sword, or be burned, or captured, or plundered, because you're not going for the okie doke. And hell is going to be enraged at that. Hell is going to be enraged at that. Okay. And the people who are taking money to buy into the system that the world brings in, okay, they're going to believe they're doing God a favor when you know better. When they fall, they will receive a little help, and many who are not sincere will join them. Some of the wise will stumble, so that they may be refined, purified, and made spotless into the time of the end, because he gave them a certain amount of time, okay, to kind of get this work done. For it will still come at the appointed time. Okay. Then the king, I'm almost finished with this. The king will do as he pleases, because the Lord's going to allow him, okay? Because he really think he's getting away with coming against the people of God, because this was all about, the battle that the people of God is going to be in, and who is going to deliver them from the battle. Really, seriously, if we don't have the Lord, we don't have nothing in this world. Seriously, this is what this chapter tells us. It says, then the king will do as he pleases. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god, and will also say unheard of things against the God of gods. And that is the voice, okay, that you heard in chapter 7, saying all kind of things against God. That voice, like, who was that? He was disturbed about what he said. This is the voice right here, because the revelation is unfolding, as it relates to what Daniel saw. So it's unfolding. It's unfolding and revealing who it is. And here's the gentleman that's doing all the talking, the king that's doing all the talking and talking big and saying all kind of things against God. He will be successful until the time of wrath is completed. For what has been determined must take place. He will show no regard for the gods of his ancestors, or for one who's desired by women, nor will he regard any god, but will exalt himself above them all. So watch out for all civil wars and things breaking out and things like that, and people coming with answers and things like that. The one thing that's going to always trip this world up is this sexual appetite, okay? That's the one thing that's going to always trip this world up, okay? And people selling out or leaving their covenant with God, or their life with God, and saying, speaking as if this person is, getting money from this person, or getting finances to put their buildings together and put their work in and things like that. So it's okay with them to side with somebody doing, well, God love everybody. No, he don't. Not like that. Okay. Not in that regard. Okay. He will attack. Okay. Okay. Nor will he regard any God, but will exalt himself as God. Instead of them, he will honor a God of fortresses, a God unknown to his ancestors. He will honor with gold and silver, with precious stones and costly gifts. All that was taken, okay, all that was taken out of someone else's booty or supply, he will attack the mightiest fortress. He's gonna go and shake it down. He's an evil genius with the help of a foreign god, and will greatly honor those who acknowledge him, because that's what he's desperate for the praise on himself. So if you acknowledge him as being king, although he took it by force, he's gonna actually give you some goods. He will make them rulers over many people and will distribute the land at a price. Well, it's not even his. It's not even his, but he's dividing up the land that the Lord put his people back in. At the time of the end, the king of the south will engage him in battle, and the king of the north will storm out against him with chariots and a cavalry and a great fleet of ships. He will invade many countries and sweep through them like a flood. He will invade the beautiful land. And that's what the end times about. Is about, Satan coming, exalting himself as God, but then the Lord is the one who destroyed him, in the end. Many countries will fall, but Edom, which is Rome, Moab, and the leaders of Ammon will be delivered from his hand. And that's strange, because you got Edom, who is Esau. You have Moab, who is lots of kids. Remember, his daughters, had lots of grandkids, that he had with his daughters. And Ammon is also Lot's grandson. So their distant relatives, will be delivered from his hand. Okay. He will extend his power over many countries. Egypt will not escape. He will gain control of the treasuries of gold, because that's what it's all about. The interest of the wealthy, silver, and all the riches of Egypt, with the Libyans and Cushites in submission. But reports from the east and the north will alarm him, and he will set out in a great rage to destroy and annihilate many. He will pitch his royal tents between the seas at the beautiful holy mountain, yet he will come to his end, and no one will help him. No, because here comes the Lord of war. All right, that is Daniel chapter 11. Okay, and join me next week for Daniel chapter 12. That is the final chapter, 47 minutes. That's a long time. And I will see you next week. Thanks.